what are you doing here? I see. Okay, so you wanted to come check out my self-tape process, correct? Oh, okay, so you weren't... You can ignore that. That was just my self-tapes. Hi, welcome to the world of self-tapes. Okay, so as an actor, one of the things that I get asked most is kind of what the audition process is like. And you know, a lot of people understand the idea of an audition. You go to a studio, you wait in the hallway, you go into a large open space, you read a few lines and they film you and then you leave. A lot of people understand that. That's probably the most common way that auditions have been done for a very long time. And you know, it's a kind of process that you normally see in like a movie or a TV show. If there's an actor going to an audition, more often than not, it's that kind of setup. Hallway, space, say your stuff, leave. In recent years, especially with the, this is my first like YouTube video in like a really long time. I don't know what the rules are when it comes to mentioning certain things. When the big one happened back in 2020, it became tremendously common for self-tapes to happen. Now, it's not like they were introduced at that time. I definitely remember doing self-tapes, even back in like 2019 before the big one showed up. But they are definitely a lot more prevalent nowadays. In terms of the auditions that I do, I think it's fair to say that probably 80% of them are self-tapes nowadays. And when I describe to some people, people are just like, oh, like what's kind of like the process of self-tapes like? So that's what this is right here. So basically I'm going to take you through basically the whole process of it. So hang tight. Okay, I switched the camera here so that way the lighting could be a bit more generous. That's going to be really important when we get to it. So what's the process of a self-tape? Well, as an actor, what's going to happen is your agent is going to be subscribed, and you are as well, going to be subscribed to several casting websites, which are, they're kind of like your LinkedIns, your Indeeds, your Glassdoors, the kind of websites where they're meant to connect employers to potential employees. That's basically what casting websites are for. It's basically the product, or like, it's actually like a way more complex than that, but to put it in very, very simple terms, it is like company, casting agency goes onto the casting website, casting agency puts out a call, and then my agent will look at the certain calls, see if I fit a demographic for that, ad, commercial, TV show role, and then submit me to it. And then if my submission is like approved, I get an email saying, hey, you have a video request for a self-tape. So that's exactly what's going on today. What the breakdown normally looks like is the breakdown will normally give you an idea of the industry of the product itself. So if it's for like a shampoo commercial, it'll say very clearly, this is for a shampoo commercial. If it's for like a food commercial, it'll be very obvious, like it's for a food commercial. Those ones are very, very obvious, like product specific commercials. Some of the ones that are other ones are like, I think one of them was like either like a medical office, or like a medical office thing, or like a car commercial. Basically, like you have a very good idea of what the industry is and kind of what they're aiming for, what kind of vibe they want. Then they will tell you their role name. So a lot of the time a role name will be very generic. It will be doctor, it will be driver, it will be man, it will be college student, it will be boyfriend. Just these very, one-word descriptors that you're going to work with to kind of use that in tandem with like the industry to kind of figure out the vibe that they're going for. Because obviously the way you act in one commercial is going to be a lot different than the way you would act in another one. Then the last thing, like the last most, like there's like a lot of like breakdowns and stuff like that about like the usage and stuff like that. But the last one that you really have to keep in mind is the directions. So directions will mostly just be very easy and very simple to follow in the way that they say like, yep, we want you in a we want you in your room, we want you playing out this scene. They'll either give you a script or they'll give you a prompt. So, a script is very easy. You say like, hi, so today we're going to talk about Heads and Shoulders shampoo. And do you know that Heads and Shoulder kills 99% of bacteria on your head? Like that kind of stuff. Other times they'll give you like a prompt. So there would be like, they'll literally say, pretend you're eating a burger and it's the best burger you've ever had in your life. And like those are the really funny ones because you're literally having to review yourself online just eating a burger. It's really funny. It's one of those things where like you always get like a good story out of this kind of stuff. So those are the three things that you kind of have. You get your you get the industry, you get the role description, and then you get kind of the directions. And the other thing in the directions is going to be stuff like a slate, which I will show you how to do afterwards. But let's kind of go back a bit. So, as an actor, what do you need to do when you get like that title? So the title is actually a lot more important than you might think, because those descriptors give you an idea, the titles of like man, boyfriend, doctor, whatever. It gives you a really good idea of what they're looking for, and it kind of gives you an idea that like, okay, wait a second, I need to look a certain way to capture the vibe of this, mini story that they're trying to tell. So let me show you some of my outfits that I have. So yeah. So I put on a hat just to kind of keep my hair, inside, because it actually, you want to present yourself as nicely as possible. And basically, very quick tangent on the hair and the faces and stuff like that. You want to make your appearance like the least distracting it could possibly be. So, just making sure like hair is clean and that like your teeth is also good. You haven't missed a spot when you're shaving. That's really important. But the first outfit that we have, this is just kind of like generic man outfit, I guess. A generic man outfit. So if it is a self-tape for like, I don't know, you're an everyday Canadian guy. I swear to God, this is actually how it goes. You're an everyday Canadian guy who's just kind of who likes to like enjoy a beer and who likes to walk through the woods. Let's pretend that he's driving a car to go hiking. So this is the kind of outfit I would wear for that kind of prompt. This is another outfit. This one I kind of call like the boyfriend cardigan. This is like something that you would see in like a brunch commercial where you can imagine this guy, this face, with like his girlfriend walking through the park, because that's one that I've gotten. It's like, pretend you're like walking through the park and you look lovingly at your partner, or you're at the grocery store, or that kind of stuff. So I don't know, I feel like this one says boyfriend. This is my last cardigan. This one I would describe as kind of like the student outfit for if I'm, submitted for a role of like a student and it's for like, I don't know, like books or something like that. Unfortunately, I can't remember all of them, but I definitely know that a lot of my outfits in my closet are, very tailored specifically for certain roles. And this isn't just for self-tapes, this is also just for like general auditions as well. And the other thing that I normally like to do is that I always make sure that my clothes are consistent with my headshots. So for example, my headshots literally has me wearing this and I have like this big like smile on there and I look like a real estate agent, like I'm gonna sell you something, or I'm offering to do your taxes for you. You want to make sure that like that's the vibe you're aiming for, because if that photo is being seen by the casting agency, that's what they're looking for. They want that vibe. So, getting into the outfit of it and looking the part is actually really, really important. For today's role, I'm just gonna keep it with like the white t-shirt, just something very like neutral, very plain. That's because today's self-tape, I'm not going to go into like a lot of detail about it, but it's just a very general self-tape, and that's very common as well. It's very common for, you get a self-tape and they just kind of ask you just a question about yourself, just to kind of check in with some vibes, because when you're in like a studio space for an audition, an in-person audition, it's very common that you talk with the check-in person, you talk with the casting person inside the room, and when I say talk, you're chit-chatting. You're having that small talk, so that way they can kind of get a better idea of like what kind of person you are. Unfortunately, that's not really a case here. So what a lot of the times they'll do is they will actually ask you, like, yeah, at the beginning of your self-tape, just like tell us something about yourself. Just tell us your favorite food. Tell us your favorite memory with like your partner or your parents. And that's kind of the way they get you to do the vibe check. So today's self-tape is kind of like that, where it's mostly kind of like vibes. It's not really heavy on character necessarily. So they just want to see that I'm a fun guy. So that's what I'm gonna do. I think this is the last step right now in terms of kind of explaining to you the self-tape. So we're gonna get up, I'm gonna show you what my self-tape setup looks like, and it is going to be the most ghetto thing in the world. So please bear with me. Let me show you the two most common tools you will use in a self-tape. It will be a phone to film yourself with, that's my Wolverine background, and a tripod to set your phone up on. Now you may be wondering, wait a minute, what are you filming on? Like, aren't you, what do you mean? So I'm filming on a camera right now. There's a very specific, hilarious reason as to why I'm filming a vlog on this thing and why I film self-tapes on the phone. So let me show you very quickly. So the answer as to why I don't use the camera for self-tapes normally is because of this reason. So, fun fact, hi there. Fun fact, I am 6 foot, I'm 6 foot 3 inches tall and a half-ish. It depends on how well I sleep, like realistically speaking. So this one, I would say, I don't even know what I would call that. Like, it's not even 5'10". It's maybe like 5'8", probably, like the total height of my tripod. Now, I can maybe try to fudge it and kind of change the base a little bit of it, but then it creates something a bit more unstable. And the other thing about self-tapes, when you think about the framing of things, the ideal frame is like this, but even then this is like really intimate, this is really close. Yeah, this is not gonna work. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna show you the very funny setup that I have with my phone that oddly works really well. So I'll be right back. All right, now presenting possibly the most hilariously intuitive setup I've ever invented for so this is my tripod, and this is my phone. So as you can see, this ring light is not connected to anything. It's actually quite broken. Why do I still have it is the question. Well, it's because this arm that it has and the base as well gives the tripod the necessary height that it needs to give me that framing that casting agencies like to have. So as you can see, if you can kind of tell, the framing is correct. My head is just under that top frame, and my chest, I guess the top of my chest is in line with the phone itself. This is the kind of framing that they like. And the other thing that makes phones a lot nicer to record with is that you record, you get instant playback. With this one, with a camera, I want to say that like you're filming it with the expectation that it is going to be heavily edited later. With the self-tape, they don't want that. So in a self-tape, you can't do like cuts in the middle of a scene. You can't speed up footage. You need to make it, basically you need to emulate the experience of an in-person audition as much as you can. And in those situations, you get a very raw look. So, this instant playback, obviously, like, I don't know how obvious it is, but the instant playback of the phone, it's a bigger screen, the sound is better, and obviously there's gonna be less tinkering with the footage. And then also, when it comes to something like a self-tape, which has very minimal editing, iMovie does the trick just fine. Very quickly, we're gonna kind of get into some of the like random frustrations that you'll very minor, not frustrations, very minor roadblocks and inconveniences that might occur when doing a self-tape. I don't know if you can tell, but right now in the room, I just opened up all the blinds. So I think that it's the best to do a self-tape when it is daytime. So, every time that I've done a in-person audition, it was like middle of the day. It was like a giant like studio space, and they had these like big windows that were like open to get the natural light in. They did also have some supplementary light on the side to maybe make sure that one side of your face wasn't super shadowed over the other, but it was mostly natural lighting. The issue with doing a self-tape at night and having to rely on electric lights in your apartment is just sometimes the orange, because there's like the hot orange light, the warm light. It doesn't look like the best thing in the world, because it can kind of make you look a bit unflattering. Like really, like the more light that you have, the best. And before you ask, the ring light is actually not a fantastic way to light yourself up in a self-tape scenario because of the fact that they don't like distractions. So what a ring light does is it blasts light like straight onto your face. When you think about all these amazing shots in film or photography or even in something like animation, when you think about the shadows, it always comes as if the light source is like here and the shadows are going that way. With a ring light, it is light is here, there is no shadows, there's no finer details to your face that way. The other thing is that a ring light, even if you have it on the dimmest setting, it will give you so obviously I don't have a ring light. It will give you these really, really intense white lights around your eyes, which will be super obvious, super duper distracting. So that's why, in essence, I like to do my self-tapes with as much natural light as I possibly can. I try to close all the windows to prevent any outside noises, because I have done self-tapes where I film it and I watch it back and I left a window open and I'm in the middle of doing like a line and you just hear like a or like a literally, it just happened. It just happened. Sorry. So windows closed, turn off the fans, turn off everything, make it as quiet a space as you can, basically minimize distractions. That is the key. And the next part of that is basically the framing and where you want to be in your apartment. So the very tough part about self-tape is the fact that a lot of the times in an apartment you don't really have a lot in the way in terms of like wall real estate. They say like try to pick a space that has like very minimal distractions, but it's a bit difficult. It was really hard in my last place because I had like a giant Batman poster. So a lot of the times I would be doing self-tapes and you would just see like a Batman poster right behind me. But that's basically it. You want like as blank a canvas as possible. So unfortunately I might not be able to use this wall just because it's a bit too short. So I'll have to find another space in the apartment, but just as an example, I'll kind of show you the process of what a self-tape looks like. So normally I stand here, I'm in front of my camera, and I'll press play. Sometimes I'll have like written down in a notebook some of the finer directions, because they always ask different questions with what they want said in a self-tape. So I'll give you like the most extended one you can possibly think of. Okay, so hi, my name is Ryan Reed. That one is always what you have to say. Sometimes they'll ask for your height. I'm 6'4" tall. They'll ask you for your agency. I'm with such and such. They will ask you for your status as a non-union actor or a union actor. So you'll say, I am non-union, or you'll say, I am union. And then, it depends on what the project is. If it's like, oh, you have to swim in cold water, you have to say, yeah, I'm comfortable swimming in cold water. So let's try to string all of that together. Okay, ready? Hi, my name is Ryan Reed. I'm 6'4" tall. I am represented by such and such agency in Vancouver, Canada. That's another question I'll ask, is where you're based. Sorry, we'll start over, okay? Hi, my name is Ryan Reed. I'm 6'4" tall. I am represented by such and such. I am based in Vancouver, British Columbia, and I am comfortable swimming in cold water. And that's basically it. And then sometimes they'll ask for the self-tape to include like the fun fact about yourself. So, you know, you'll do your slate, you're like, Brian Reed, 6'4" tall, Vancouver, non-union, represented by such and such. One thing that I like to do to relieve myself is I like to go to the gym and I like to eat ice cream afterwards. So just like random stuff like that. Yeah, and then you'll go into your scene and then you'll go into the editing booth, which I will show you after I finish recording this self-tape. Last kind of difficult thing is the fact that it is a bit tough sometimes to actually film a full body shot. Sometimes they ask you just for like a full body slate, just so you can kind of like walk around and I guess kind of see like your, I don't really know why. I guess it's because in a, you know, audition space they can see like your full body. But it is like a bit hard to do in an apartment because like for me, because I'm so tall, you know, I really need the camera to go really, really far back in order to get that full body shot. And then it really dirties up the frame. You know, it's hard to find because all your auditions are meant to be filmed in vertical, not in horizontal like you'd see in a TikTok or something like that. A horizontal screen is going to take a lot more of the sides, which makes things really difficult for keeping things really clean. And when I say dirtying up the frame, I mean like, you know, when you move things further back, people might see like the edge of your TV or like an air conditioning, or they might see the edge of where, you know, something becomes a hallway. It's a bit tough, but that is just kind of one of the things that you have to work around. And, you know, it really isn't like terrible. It's just something that happens. Anyways, we are now wrapped up with the filming of the self-tape itself. It is like quite quick. Like the process is only really like I don't know, like 5 minutes long. But now we're gonna take a quick break. Clearly I need it. And then we're gonna go right back and I'll show you kind of like the editing process, and I don't know, maybe I'll kind of tell you about the pros and cons of it if you feel like it. Okay, next step in terms of the editing process. Here's my desk. I'm just going to push this chair away and I'm going to lie down in bed and I'm going to edit on my phone. I'm not lying, this is actually how I do it. And that is to say, that is one of the advantages of the self-tape. So you can't see me, so I'm actually going to explain this on the couch. Okay, I don't know how dark this looks on the film because on my little like feedback thing, it actually looks insanely dark. So I don't know if you guys can actually see me or make me out. Hello? Maybe a little bit? Okay. Oh, did that kind of... alright, whatever. Let's talk about some advantages and disadvantages of the self-tape. So, off the top of my head, the advantage is the fact that you can, you know, do it in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to go to a studio and you don't have to, you know, take time out of your day, or you don't have to take... Rather, you can choose how you take time out of your day in order to do the self-tape. So, you know, auditions a lot of the time are within that 9 to 5 time period of most working schedules in North America. So, you know, I can't think of a single time where I ever had to go to an in-person audition where it was like 6:30, 7 p.m. That just doesn't happen. The most common occurrences are like 12, 1, 2, 3. Those are the ones that are the most common. Now, that is really, you know, awesome. That's really easy. I think another advantage is the fact that you can do it as much times as you want. You have a lot of practice. You know, there is like an odd occasion where if you go to an in-person audition, you actually won't be given any slides or, sorry, you won't be given any sides until you actually get to the space. So you'll just be given like the role description and you'll show up and then they will tell you all the things. And that can be a bit tough because when you go there, you're like really high up on nerves. So, you know, I'm not gonna lie, one time I was in an audition space and I was standing there and they, this is gonna be the most embarrassing thing. They said, okay, just tell us your name. And I was like, okay. I literally did that and it was the most embarrassing thing ever, and I was just like, can I do that again? I was like, I think like the exact was like, can I start again, please? And then they did, obviously. So that there is a lot of nerves that it really takes a lot of time to get used to being in an audition space. So when you're doing a self tape, some of that is like negated. Now, the things I just mentioned are things that can also kind of be taken as a slight against self tapes. So yes, it is really convenient doing it in your own house on your own time. It is kind of difficult though to find an appropriate space inside your apartment. As you can see, it's very hard to find like a key blank space where it's a good setup where there's like no distractions behind you. The other thing is if it's the kind of part where it needs dialogue, it's kind of hard to secure a reader, especially hard to secure a good reader, because in an audition space, you will have a reader who has done it like a million times. They know how to read dialogue, they know how to, do pacing, and they know what the director wants. So they will be able to feed that to you in the way that they're reading their lines. Your reader at home isn't necessarily going to do the same thing. So, for example, I used to do it with my roommate all the time, and he was always really helpful, but at the end of the day, he wasn't an actor, so he didn't really know how to really like enter the space, especially if it was like a really dumb, not dumb, but like if it was like a really, if it was a really more silly, more kind of over the top kind of audition, it's kind of hard for a novice reader to stay serious and to stay present in the moment, especially if the actor himself, like, in front of the camera, is supposed to do all this like funny stuff. I remember one time I was in like a really funny costume, I had like a funny hat, and like my roommate was like cracking. He was like, he couldn't really, take the whole thing seriously. There's another part where I had a friend over, and it was just tough because like they're not actors, so it's kind of hard to bounce off of it. It takes a lot of time because you're trying to have to kind of like give them like a quick spark notes, really quick rundown of like how to read. Clearly, obviously, if you have actor friends, that's really advantageous. And if you have access to a studio, that's nice as well, because you can indeed rent studios in the city to do your self tapes. The only issue is a lot of the time, say, they need certain time spots and they need studio fees, so that one can be a bit tough when you're doing a lot of self tapes in a month. Like that, those bills can really get up there. And that kind of I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the other kind of drawback of doing a self tape is you get into a habit of just doing takes again and again and again. So, this take, this self tape that I just did, I was able to do it in about like 3 to 4 takes. Let's see, I did 2 practice ones, I did 3 actual ones, and that was it. I was done in maybe, I want to say, 10 to 20 minutes. Sometimes, if it's more of a dialogue heavy one, and you're just re-looking at all of these things, your mind starts to play tricks on you, and your mind says like, oh, I don't like the way I look to the side there, or oh, I don't like the way that I stuttered that one word, or maybe I don't like how my voice cracked right there. That one's a bit difficult because it ends up creating this cycle where you're just doing the same thing so many times that by the end of it you're just like, wait, what? Like you don't even know what's right and like what's good, what's natural. And when you have so many takes, you're just like, oh my god, which one do I choose? That can be a bit stressful. I think one time, a friend of mine, he was helping me out, and I think we were doing this one take for like, I don't know, like an hour, and it was like a minute long dialogue scene, and we were doing it for like an hour just because I kept looking at it. I was like, oh, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. It's a lot easier when you're in sometimes in some situations, it might be easier to actually be in a room where you get like instant feedback. You do it once and they're like, try this. And then you do it and then they say thank you and then you leave. It's not so much as like, okay, I did it this way, but what if I do it that way? Oh, no, wait, but I totally missed it this way. Wait a second, I can do it this way instead. So that kind of makes it difficult. So, at the end of the day, self-tapes are just, they're a thing that just happened now, and with anything, there are pros, there are cons, and whether it is a pro or is a con isn't always like super objective. A lot of the times it could just be, up to your personal preference. I'm sure there are some people who can really just kill self-tapes, they get it, and they're like, they do it really, really easily, and that's fine. But, sometimes there are situations, and, I guess personally speaking, sometimes I'll look at a self-tape, I'll say, that's really easy, I'll go up, I'll do it, and then I'll upload it. But sometimes I'll get a self-tape, and I'm just like, how am I gonna do that? I need to organize this person. Okay, well actually, no, I might need another person who might be a bit more suited to read for this line, and okay, I need a prop here. Do I just, what do I do about that? So it can be a bit difficult, but all in all, it's a natural thing, and I hope that I've given you some sort of semblance of an idea as to how self-tapes go. Yeah, that's about it. I'm about to go start editing it on my phone. Wish me luck. So I'm gonna go edit it on my phone, where just to very quickly let you know, I use iMovie. I put all my clips into one video, and then I upload that video onto my computer, which I upload to the website. I don't know if I need to show you that, guys, but that's basically how it works. But yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was like semi-entertaining. I'll be back with either more acting stuff or non-acting stuff. This is just kind of a random YouTube channel that I do for random stuff that I enjoy. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you later.